We are back with part 2, talking with Chris Cerino about school safety. How do we protect our schools? How do we deal with all this stuff going on? This Gun Talk Nation is brought to you by ATN, the future of optics, Silencer Central, silence delivered, Ballistic Advantage, and by Franklin Armory. So, Chris, we're talking about the school shooting that happened in Texas, and now we've kind of entered into summer. Schools are out pretty much around the country at this point. So it's an interesting time to maybe take a reset to go, okay, schools aren't even in. How do we think about this and what happened? And also, man, the big story about this is the police department and what they did or didn't do. And well, you were a police officer for a long time.
Yeah, well, the schools are out, which means that it's time for people to put their heads together, maybe have some meetings, get the superintendents out there. How can we fortify these classrooms? I mean, closing off the windows. I thought everybody did that. Uvalde, they said, the cops said they could see the shooter through the windows, and when the shooter saw him, he shot back at them through the doors, and that's what caused them to hunker down. That would be enough for me to hunker down as well, but I'd still be thinking, okay, the classrooms were adjoined. They talked about the classrooms being adjoined. I mean, the guy can't be in both rooms at the same time.
Yeah.
Overwhelm him with manpower and firepower. So, in Ohio, everybody had something to cover the windows. If you can't see in, you don't know what's in there, you can't shoot at something indiscriminately. Most everybody had a way to secure the doors. They couldn't be opened. Eventually you could ballistic breach them, but the locks that go on the floors that lock into the floor, those are very, very difficult to defeat. Some people just had, 2x4s, kind of like we had at our building when it was being built, with a eye bolt in it, and they would torque that down and it would hold the door shut. It would go on the door handle and they would close it. Yeah. Could you eventually shoot that apart? Sure. But you get a lot of people out a window during that time.
Yeah.
So, when you fortify the schools and you have your meetings during the summers, you got to be thinking about what you can do. You've got to be realistic as well. You've got to say, man, if we did have to break these windows, what would we do it with and how would we do it? Can we drop children to their safety down there? I don't care if my kid got a broken leg as long as he was out of that building. I mean, if a parent has a problem with that and somebody gets a broken leg from being dropped out the window, I don't know, but see, I'm not like other parents. I'm not going to say, well, the shooter didn't even make it down that far and you started dropping my daughter out the window.
Right.
Right. Everything's about liability and crap. And I hate that. I just hate that.
So one of the things I feel like one of the simple things is I know a lot of schools have a lot of doors, but you've got to have some way to secure the school where there's limited ways to enter. Don't you think?
Well, when I was a school resource officer in Rittman, Ohio, I can tell you that I would check the back doors all the time. And students would go out, they'd go to get something out of their car, they'd go to do something, and there would be a pencil stuck in that door. Or there'd be a rock, a pebble stuck in the door jamb, so that door would open. Or they'd call their friend, say, hey, Ryan, I'm coming in late today. Can you open that back door for me and jam it? Honest to God, I would check that door all the time, and I would find it open, I don't know, maybe 40% of the time.
Yeah.
So, if I walk around a building and I would do a building check at night as a cop, alarm goes off, I go do a building check and I pull on doors. I find doors open all the time. It's going to happen. There's nothing that's going to stop this other than a good guy with a gun in the school, ready to act, that's trained, somewhat trained. Is trained as more trained than a CCW student. Someone that's trained and willing and understands the idea of going on the hunt, that understands the idea of locking down and hiding and laying in ambush. Someone that understands, all those options, when to go on the hunt, when to lay in ambush, when to search quickly, when to search slowly. When would you move fast, Ryan? If you were in a school and something happened, when would you move fast and when would you move slow?
Well, if I hear something going on, and that would be, see it or hear it, and it's a ways away, and I feel like I can haul ass down the hallway to close the distance to get a little bit closer where you still have an idea, okay, I know he's down this hallway or he's in this classroom or he's around the corner or whatever.
So when would you move slowly?
As I got close.
Or another time.
Or if I didn't know where he is.
Right. If you didn't hear anything, if you didn't have any intel coming in, you'd move slowly. So you're already, I mean, how hard is that to even think of right there? You could say, when I know something's there, I can hear it in the lunchroom and it's a good ways away, I'm hauling ass. Mm-hmm. I'm running down there and I'm going to slow down and I'm going to make my move.
Mm-hmm.
But if all of a sudden, as I'm running down there, everything goes silent, man, put the brakes on.
Yeah.
Slow down, because he could be laying an ambush for you, right?
Yeah. Yeah. What do you think? And I guess what we're kind of talking about is could be a trained teacher, that could be a school resource officer on duty. I mean,
they generally put people in schools that don't want to be on the road, right?
Well,
I mean, I hate to say that, but it's a lot of people. I had my good friend was a resource officer in Medina, and he was a hell of a cop, good SWAT guy. And I was a resource officer, so.
But some resource officers
just don't
are the
want to
guys
be regular
who are
cops,
not the ones you're putting on the street.
Right.
So the kids get the guy who barely passed quals and isn't the best street cop, perhaps. So I mean, what could be done? Because I think parents out there, and if you're listening to this and you're a parent and you're probably a gun guy, it's like, all right, could I get 30 or 40 people together who I'm just going to go sit in the parking lot. I'll take mornings, you take afternoons. We'll rotate. I'll get one day a month.
Yeah. But for stupid gun laws that say you can't have a gun within 1,000 foot of a school, right?
The more and more this stuff happens in gun-free zones, I think the more and more law-abiding gun owners seem to start not being able to see these signs.
Well, and I was probably a badass. I mean, I'm definitely a badass gunslinger. I can do a lot of things really well, but I had to cover 3 schools.
Yeah.
And they're all within walking distance, right? But if I'm down at the little peepee school and not at the high school, or I'm at the bad kids school over here, all someone has to do is say, hey, man, start a fight over here. They're going to send Cerino over there. Maybe they don't want to contend with me. Maybe they sneak up on me and shoot me in the back of the head. That could happen. Okay.
I mean, you're right. The school resource officer is probably one of the first targets.
Yeah. I mean, they're going to take you out. One of my things was never to be predictable. If you're a school resource officer and you're out there and you're listening to this, I can tell you this, please do not be predictable. I parked my car in a different spot every time.
Yeah.
Every day I parked in a different spot. I went into the school every day at a different time. I went in through different doors. There were times when I would just sit out in the parking lot, or I'd drive around in circles before I'd even go in, because honestly, if something happens, I'm as good there as I am anywhere, unless it jumps off right in front of me.
Mm-hmm.
I never went to any of the schools at a regular time. I never took lunch at the same time. I usually didn't take lunch in the same place, and if I did, it was generally in a place where I was secure and something would have to happen. I'd hear something coming before they got to me. I mean, you cannot be predictable. And I mean, it would be the same with an armed teacher. You can't be predictable. You asked me a question before we even started. What about, the people always say, well, I would be comfortable if the teachers had a gun in a special lockbox in the classroom.
Mm-hmm.
Well, we already know from first person defender that if a gun's not on you when you need it, it's too far away.
Yeah.
A gun in a lockbox is not going to help you when you go to the cafeteria to go do something, escort the kids down to the cafeteria. A gun in a lockbox isn't going to help you when you're on the other side of the room and somebody bursts through the door. Having guns up at the front office is even worse idea, because those are the first people that are going to get shot, and nobody's going to go up there to get the gun.
I think that there's some physical things that need to be done with the schools as well. We'll talk more about that after this. ATN, check out the future of optics at ATN. ATN Optics unites the top-of-the-line performance with state-of-the-art technology and thermal and digital day and night vision systems that allow you to do more, especially with hunting. ATN Optics gives you that edge to perform better in the field or on the range. Find your optic now, along with monthly promos and deals at atncorp.com. Sig Sauer, the Sig P320X10 combines the X series features with a 10 millimeter. More power. X Series grip module, deep trigger undercut, extended beaver tail, aggressive stippling for a high grip to manage the recoil. 5-inch bull barrel offers additional mass and weight to absorb the power of the round, lowering recoil. Optics ready slide comes with two 15-round mags, SigSauer.com. Ballistic Advantage, they manufacture precision quality rifle barrels, uppers, lowers. If you're thinking about doing an AR build, you need to go check out ballisticadvantage.com. They've got all the parts and pieces and really state-of-the-art manufacturing and really nice high-quality craftsmanship. Check them out, ballisticadvantage.com. So, Chris, I mean, we know like the Newtown one, I believe Adam Lanza walked in there and shot the school secretary and the front office people. People say, well, you have to sign in. You have to sign in. You can't walk through the school. You have to go talk to the school secretary first.
The Case Western Reserve shooter went up to a side door, shot out the glass. Actually, I think he broke out the glass with a hammer, and then he went through the door.
Yeah.
And then he went inside.
People are getting... Again, here we are again. People talking about assault weapons and banning AR-15 style guns and whatever the heck they can come up with here. I mean, people who listen to Gun Talk Nation probably own ARs and probably think that that's a really stupid idea. I just don't understand. I guess the pragmatic part of me says, well, that wouldn't have changed anything. But then the realist part of me says, well, that's not what this is about. This is about capitalizing. They want to get rid of these guns.
Yeah, because they're the weapons that we are the most safe with in this country. We can actually fight back against a lot with an AR. We can withstand enemy intrusion. We can withstand, domestic intrusion. We could defend ourselves and our families for a good long time with an AR, and with as many of them as there are out there. Like the Japs said back in World War II, if we invade America, there will be a rifle behind every blade of grass.
Right. And even more so now. I mean, gun ownership is widespread. I think they're saying 400 million guns.
Yeah, our population has increased. Our gun ownership has increased. Our training level. I mean, back then it was just people that had guns in their house because they hunted. And that's how, that was just self-sustaining.
That's a good point, and something I was thinking about, because I was with a guy this morning who, just on the job side of doing construction on our new range, and this guy had been in Mogadishu in 2004 as a Marine, and now he's back in the States doing regular day job stuff.
Pretty nice, isn't he?
Nice guy.
I liked him.
But you think about how we probably, because we've been at war since the early 2000s, this war and terror.
Since 1990 something.
Yeah, really before that. I'm thinking about 9/11, but really like over there actively, we probably have the most war-hardened, war-experienced veteran base we've ever had in America at this point.
Oh, yeah.
People who, we've been doing this for 20, 25 years.
We've got a lot less cooks running around than we have soldiers now.
Yes.
Yeah,
and a lot of them are back, and yeah, they're a fireman, or they're a construction worker, or whatever. They're an Uber driver. But yeah, he's like, yeah, I'm an Uber driver, but I was in Kandahar. Yeah. Like, I've been shot at and I've shot people.
Yeah. And the problem is we don't hire those people as cops because they're too dangerous. Really? Oh, yeah. That's the other problem we got with law enforcement today. I mean, it's that, and the guys that are out there that are listening, you know exactly who I'm talking about. We hire a bunch of people that are not going to be a liability. We hire people that are not going to cause problems. They're less likely to shoot somebody. They'd rather pay for your funeral than the lawsuit of you shooting somebody. Trust me.
This isn't the 80s cop movie where it's like, Cerino, you're a loose cannon. Give me your badge and your gun. We don't have that anymore. Any more loose cannon 80s cops with mustaches?
Loose cannons out there, but
we have a shoulder holster.
We have a bunch of guys that would love to be able to do the job, and they can't. And they're quite frankly, they're either not getting hired or they're quitting.
Well, there's a lot of that going on in the last few years with the defund police and all this stuff. But that experiment is running its course exactly how we thought it would. Today, San Francisco is holding a vote.
Oh my God, I know.
On their DA, is that right?
Yes, district attorney for San Francisco.
And that was a decriminalize, defund politician.
He had no prosecutorial experience, none. And they got elected because in San Francisco, you don't have to have that experience to get hired as the chief prosecutor.
Yeah. We see how that's working out.
Yeah, I can't wait to hear. I was watching a lot of news last night because I just didn't want to get involved in anything and all this stuff that's going on. I mean, the lady that got run over with her kid in L.A. and whatever his name is in L.A., the DA in L.A., you know, chief prosecutor, he freaking gives him 5 months in like camp.
Right.
Unbelievable stuff that's going on. And all this stuff is perpetual. It has nothing to do with guns. It has everything to do with, hey, I can get away with this, so I'm going to go into that. It's like, hey, you know, I've been drinking all these years. I'm going to start doing this drug. And this drug's been good for me all these years, but man, I need something more. I mean, people always increase their levels of crime and violence.
So when we come back, we're going to talk more about this and how what you guys can do listening and to try to give you some intellectual ammunition. Franklin Armory is your trusted source for binary trigger systems, quality firearms, and much more. Everything Franklin Armory manufactures is machined in America with American materials by patriots that will always stand for freedom, liberty, and the defense of the Second Amendment. Products like the new GS-17-3 BFS-3 kit. It's a lot of numbers and letters for Glock Model 17 Gen 3s. It's a binary trigger system for Glocks, but it's the whole slide, optics cut, and the trigger. Shop freedom and innovation at franklinarmory.com. Silencer Central delivers your suppressor right to your door with a simple process that ensures you get the suppressor you need and make it easy. From online paperwork to help with setting up your trust and also e-forms, making it really fast. A variety of suppressors are available from them. From the 22 to the 50 cal, they got you covered. Making it quiet, reducing recoil, all that good stuff. SilencerCentral.com. It's just hard to imagine. We've got 400 million guns. We've got 100 million gun owners. And
we can't keep ammo in stock. Let's not forget that.
Oh, goodness. Why you got to bring up ammo, man?
I just don't ever think it's going to go back to anything. We're in the new normal now.
Yeah.
Go on. We've got 400 million guns. Carry on.
Yes. This is Chris's telethon for ammo right now.
Oh, my God. It's just sad.
But 99.9% of gunners didn't commit a crime yesterday.
Right. Probably 99.999.
Right.
Because the other people aren't really gun owners. They're just people that happened into guns. The ones
That's a good point. Yeah. Yeah. The guy who stole a gun out of a car.
Did you see the pictures of
whatever.
Biden's son flashing that gun around naked on TV?
No.
He was naked. Supposedly it was a hooker. They can't prove it was a hooker.
Wow.
He's naked. He's got a pistol. He's flashing around, pointing at the camera. There's all kinds of pictures of it. And then it's, he's a drug user, right? And you have to swear on your 4417.
4473.
4473, right? That you, I don't care about numbers, as you can tell. And you have to swear that you're not a drug user, right?
Yeah.
So he's a drug user. We've got pictures of him smoking crack, doing all this stuff. And so he's filled out those forms and bought guns, right?
Yeah.
So technically he's in violation of that. And then at some point they find his gun in a dumpster outside like a school. And it's like I think
a lot of it, and it's kind of a weird, it's not funny, although it is a little bit funny, but it's sad, it's concerning because a lot of these people who are advocates of gun control, there's a lot of projection going on.
Oh, yeah.
There's a lot of, I don't trust you with guns because I don't trust myself with guns. I mean, there is a whole wear orange for gun control thing, and Firearms Policy Coalition started a great social media campaign of hashtag wear orange and started showing all these Democratic gun control politicians who are wearing orange jumpsuits because they've been arrested for various crimes, murder, different gun possession crimes,
for fraud and theft and
child porn. And so it's like, you have this thing of like, well, I wouldn't trust myself with a gun, therefore I wouldn't want anyone to have these guns.
And I think that's a lot of the problems with arming the teachers, to tell you the truth. And aren't you glad I watch the news and I sidetrack you continually? But I think that's a lot of the problem with the teachers, because even I think, gosh, I don't trust all these people that have CCWs out there. Mm-hmm. But yet the woman was it Philadelphia?
Yeah, or Ohio, or somewhere up.
Virginia. It was in Virginia or West Virginia.
Guy shows up with an AR to shoot people.
To shoot people at a party, and she skins a smoke wagon and smokes him and saves a bunch of lives. And it's a woman who has a CCW that carried a gun to a party that most people always say, hey, Ryan, do you have your gun today? Why? Oh, of course I do. Why would you carry a gun to your daughter's birthday party?
I don't know. Weird stuff happens.
Yeah, because weird stuff happens. And she just proved it again.
Yeah.
This woman.
Yeah. And it's funny because we've seen the good and the bad and the ugly on doing first person defender. But I have definitely seen people who have very little experience, and you watch them handle guns and it's not good. And then we run them through a scenario. They don't do great. We give them a little training, and then they do pretty good.
And they're like, blow your mind.
Because I think part of it is the bad guys, even in first person defender, where we kind of know what's going to happen, but we try to play it real. We don't try to game it too much. The bad guys aren't expecting that person, that lady with her purse, to be the one that's going to get them.
They're not. Yes, right. That's why you don't want to be assuming. That's why when you asked me if I would wear these glasses with the tape on them on the show, like if I was sitting in a restaurant and something bad happened, I would want to be wearing these reading glasses with this piece of tape on it, because I would want to look like a non-factor.
Absolutely.
I would want to look just like milquetoast.
Yeah. Did you dress different when you were doing Air Marshal stuff to kind of blend in a bit?
We had to wear certain clothes at the time, but for me, since we had to wear certain things, and it's not the case anymore, but I wore a shirt and a tie, and I tucked in, and I had a belt and shoes, and I tried to grow my hair a little longer so I didn't look quite like a cop.
Yeah.
Excuse me. And I had reading glasses. I actually have a prescription that I used to wear in the old days. I just don't wear it anymore.
Who needs to see?
Yeah, who needs to see? I could shoot good enough.
Just get a bigger front sight.
I was always tucked in and neat. Nobody knew where my gun was because I wore a deep concealment belly band, and I wore it straight up front, and I had the button undone under my tie, so I could reach right in there and I could get it
into
out.
The shirt.
Oh yeah, down here, down low, so I could just reach right in and I could get it out quickly, and was trying to get it back in. That's a whole nother story, especially if you pull it out because something bad happens and you get scared and it ends up being nothing.
Just hypothetically saying.
It's not easy to get that back in the holster.
I got this.
You got to get to the bathroom quick. The seatbelt sign's on. Oh, I still got to go to the bathroom.
Yeah, I mean, it's just, I know we're kind of all over the place, but I kind of, it's just a crazy time right now.
We're talking about we're talking about teachers. We're talking about how they're our best defense for the children. We're talking about the best defense against a bad guy with a gun is a good guy with a gun.
I really like the idea. And the problem is a lot of school boards are not going to be a part of this. But I mean, we see it in certain neighborhoods, certain schools that are having problems when the dads start showing up. There was a story of a school up in Shreveport where it's kind of an inner city school, kind of a rough school. And just dads just started showing up, and just not like with guns. It wasn't like a anti-school shooting thing. It was actually they were having just fights in schools. And they'd have, I want to say, 3 or 4 dads every day. And they all just like 100 dads said, all right, I'm going to take Monday. I'll take Tuesday. I'll take Wednesday.
It's a good way to get stabbed, right?
And all the behavior changed. all the students started shaping up. Oh crap, dad's here, or your dad's here. And also the dads were able to go, hey man, kind of a little bit of a father figure to probably half these kids
why you got to be a D head?
Yeah, why you got to be like that? Yeah,
yeah.
And it was actually showing great promise. It's showing great promise. So I wonder if the same thing could be true. Could you have some people who are like, look, I'm just going to be at the school, but I know carrying on school grounds. In a lot of places, you're not allowed to.
I was more than an SRO. I wasn't just a school resource officer. I was a mentor to those kids. I hung out with them. I talked to them. I treated them like I would treat my own kids or my Boy Scouts.
Mm-hmm.
I wasn't a cop to them. I was there as a cop, but I wasn't a cop to them. And I tell you what, I had tremendous results. If you saw the number of letters that I received from kids that thanked me for different things, or parents that said, hey, you really made a difference this year in my son's life. And I can't believe the change.
Yeah.
Weird stuff like that. And I know you don't expect it from me. Nobody does.
He's a softie.
Yeah. Well, it's not that. It's just that normally I'm more of an animal. But I can get along with kids.
So marching orders, some takeaways. If people listen to this and they're like, man, this is crazy. I don't know.
I'll tell you.
A lot of things are being thrown out right now of what's going to happen. Proposals on laws, all this stuff.
Here's what I think. I used to have a website, and I had a list of books that I recommended for all my teachers. I would say, hey, there's a list of reading. I want you to read these books before you come to the class so they would have an idea. There's a book called The Unthinkable by Amanda Ripley. If you haven't read that, you need to read it. The audiobook is fantastic also. If you drive and do stuff, why not do an audiobook? Everybody says Left a Bang is great. I found it dry, and I didn't enjoy it, but I did get through it. I think what the problem with Left a Bang for me was that it was very common sense to me. Mm-hmm. But for some people, they're going to get a lot out of that. Day of Wrath, if you're interested in the schools and stuff like that, Day of Wrath. Gavin DeBecker's Gift of Fear. If you haven't read The Gift of Fear, God gave us the gift of fear for a reason, man. When you step on a branch and the end of it pops out of the leaves 10 foot away from you and you end up 10 feet over here, that's a gift. That's your limbic brain. That's your animal brain. That is just the gift of fear. We deny a lot. When you read The Unthinkable, it's about, when disaster strikes, who survives and who doesn't and why. Man, is it cool, because you will see stuff you've done, you'll see stuff other people have done, and you will never react that way again. Being prepared, having a gun on you and not just near you. In my house, quite often guns are near me, honestly, but I do wear a gun a lot too in the house. So, we live and die by those decisions, but, you listen, if you live in orange all the time, if you live in color orange all the time, you're going to crash and burn. When I was done with a shift on the Air Marshals, because you're in orange the whole time, man, when you're done with that shift, you are smoked.
Yeah.
You have to be down there in yellow, near white, and I catch myself in white from time to time, and that's okay. We all do. But man, when something sparks, don't deny the gift of fear. Do not deny intuition. Be prepared, have a gun. I carry a flashlight for the most part. I carry a flashlight when I think I'm going to need it. A lot of people don't think they're going to need it during the day, but there are dark places. If this building went dark right now, we would need a flashlight. And if it was a deadly threat situation, a shopping center, a supermarket, and somebody killed the power and then went in there and decided, that'd be a problem.
Yeah, in the middle of a Walmart, you're not near a window at all.
Right, exactly. So be prepared. Train your brain is what I used to. It was a section on my website that said train your brain, and it was all the books that I thought were like super influential to me, and it would prepare those teachers when they would come to the class, because then they would have an idea what I was going to talk about. The Charles Whitman, not the guy that makes the Whitman sampler, but the Charles Whitman that the Texas clock tower shooter.
Oh, sure. Yeah.
You know, that book was in there because he was an Eagle Scout. He was normal. He was everything, but he was also that single parent home. And that day he shot his mom and went up on the tower and did all that stuff. And he was prepared, man. He had a locker full of guns and food, and he was up there for the long haul. Yeah. And when airplanes got near, because we didn't have a lot of helicopters back then, airplanes got near, he shot at them too.
Yeah.
You know, so knowing what can happen, you know, stories, you know, watch YouTube interviews, watch the woman from Luby's Cafe, you know, listen to that, read up on that, find out that the law enforcement officers were just down the street in the training conference. They weren't allowed to carry their guns into the conference. So all their guns were in their cars. And when that happened, they had to all go to their cars first before they could respond to that.
Well, and this is a good segue into people are, if you weren't there already, you're getting there to realize, no, you can't just call the cops and they're going to come and save the day. Even when they show up, they may not go in.
They're just, yeah, I mean, that's 100% right. They may not even have the courage to do what needs to get done to save you. I mean, they used to tell us back in the day that you don't go to a domestic without 2 officers. I went to a domestic. I was the first one there. I was watching through the window, and I'm trying to make this fast because we're running out of time, but I mean, I saw the guy, he's arguing with his wife, and nobody's there. I got no backup. And at some point, he just hauls off and he belts her. I mean, he hit her so hard in the face. I just yanked the door open and I went after him, you know, and I piled on top of him and I wrestled him down. By the time I got him under control, another cop was standing over me dangling handcuffs, and he says, "Hey, you need these?" I'm breathing hard thinking, yeah, thanks. But, you know, but there are people that won't go in because policy says, you have to have 2 people to respond. I bet that lady was happy that I stopped him.
Yeah.
I should have stopped him before he punched her, but I didn't. I was adhering to policy.
You try to adhere to policy until it's obvious you just need to go and take action. So you are your own first responder. You are your own first person defender.
You are responsible for yourself.
Yeah. And your family, if you have a family. I mean, so you guys, that's it for us. Thanks for listening. Thanks for watching. We'll see you next time on Gun Talk Nation.